G'day, how you doing? Adam Williams here from the Bohemian Creative. In this video tutorial, I've got a processing theory called Reveal and Conceal, and in my opinion, it's a great way to get a huge amount of impact out of your images. Let's take a look. Okay, in this tutorial, I've got something that's really awesome, really exciting. We're going to talk about visual direction, or the visual weight of an image, and also a theory called Reveal and Conceal. Now, what this is based on is the fact that light, color, and contrast is very attractive to the human eye. In other words, more light, more contrast, more color will make that section of the image more attractive to our viewers, and in the reverse of that, less light, less color, less contrast will make an area less attractive to the viewers. Now, what I mean by visual direction is we need to be conscious of the fact of how we would like our viewers to view our image. In what order would we like our image consumed or viewed, if you like? So with this particular image, I want the main subject to stand out and be big and bold and interesting and exciting and obvious, so that the viewer goes, wow, that's an absolutely incredible rock structure. I want to go there myself. Now, actually, I will put a disclaimer here. I have already stretched this rock structure up vertically. So when you get there and it looks not quite as tall as what it does in this particular photo, my apologies, but I've stretched it up to add even more drama to the structure of this particular rock. But back to what we were talking about. I want this rock, this subject, to be the most obvious, the most interesting part of this image. So what we will do with this little tutorial here is we will add more light, more color, more contrast into this rock. Now, from there, the second elements I want to be explored, I suppose, are the nice wispy storm clouds above and these foreground rocks. In other words, I don't really want my viewers to look at how interesting the rocks are before they look at the subject, if you know what I mean. So visual direction wise, or visual weight, I want the most visual weight to be in the subject, and then I guess kind of on even keel or even par, the second element, or the secondary element, will be the rocks and the sky. Okay, so what we're going to do, add more contrast, more color, more light into here, into the central region of the subject, maybe take away the color, darken down a little bit, and reduce the contrast in the surrounding areas. And we're going to do this by using the most simple Photoshop tools possible. Now, if you don't have a Photoshop workflow and you haven't as yet heard of easywayphotography.com.au, go and take a look at that. That's the first photography education site I produced, and it's aimed at teaching the specific tools and techniques of a Photoshop workflow, a landscape Photoshop workflow to landscape photographers, and it gives you all the tools and techniques. And essentially what we're going to be running through here is the most basic workflow that I teach over there at easywayphotography.com.au. So this is the beginner workflow. It gets bigger and more powerful from there. However, even with the beginner workflow, you can transform pretty, ordinary images into something spectacular. Let's do it. If you're going to follow along, let's go ahead and open up this image now. Okay, we all have this image open. Let's go ahead and do this. So more light, more color, more contrast in the middle, less light, less color, less contrast on the outside. Reveal the interesting, conceal the not so interesting. A great recipe for high impact images. Okay, let's jump in and do it. Add a curves layer. Curves does all our brightening, darkening, and contrast adjustments in Photoshop. And what we're going to do here is just brighten up. One point in the middle, push up. Not too far. About that far is enough. Command or Control I to invert our mask. Now just quickly, I'll just quickly run through the layer masks just in case there's a few out there that aren't quite comfortable with the layer mask. The layer mask is this little white box that comes with every adjustment layer. And the little white box represents a window that allows the adjustment layer through to the layers below. So you can see in this case, when the window is white or clear, it allows the adjustment layer through to the entire image, top to bottom, side to side, affecting the entire image, as you can see. If we invert this window to black by pressing Command or Control I for invert, the window goes black. Okay, so we can no longer see the adjustment, but if you look up here in the properties panel, it's still there. The adjustment's still adjusted. We just can't see it because the window is black. If we press B for brush, and we'll just set our brush up at about 40% opacity, 50% flow, making sure our brush is in white. And what we can do with a white brush, we can clean the black window and allow the adjustment to come through in the areas we wish. Now we want to add more light into this central region. Just like that. So a couple of brush strokes through there, and now we've just brushed in that particular central region, okay? All right, so we've now added light. Let's go and darken down our surrounds a little bit. So again, curves layer, and we could darken from the middle, but it gets really contrasty and weird. And I want to darken down a lot, so I'm going to grab the white point here and darken down in this fashion. I want to darken down quite a lot. Command or Control I to invert. I'll just make the picture in the middle there a little smaller. I might lower my opacity down to about 30% because this is a pretty intense layer. Once again, you will have noticed when the mask was white, that adjustment is affecting the entire image. Press Command or Control I to black out the window. Use our soft white brush, 30% opacity, 50% flow. And we're just going to darken down. Now remember what I said at the start, darkening down begins to conceal and make this area not so interesting as it once was. Okay, and you might be able to see already with only 2 layers, have we made the subject more interesting? Before, after? I think we have. We've added light to the subject and removed light from the outside. Perfect. Just 2 layers in. What I want to do though, I want to create a light source kind of coming from up in this region where the brush is. So I might switch to a black brush and just remove some of that darkness from here. So the light source is kind of going to be coming through that direction there. Let's add another curves layer and we'll build up some directional light. So what I want to do is lighten the right side of the rocks and darken the back side, the left side or the shadow side, to create some directional light. So curves, again, initially we'll just lighten up a little bit like so. Command or Control I to invert. Okay, same workflow, apply the adjustment, invert, then brush it in with a white brush. And we'll just use a big soft brush here. We'll paint a little bit out through there, perfect. A little bit on that side, you know, not getting too fussy at this point. Often you don't need to be that fussy. Okay, just added a little bit of directional light, started to build up that directional light. And of course, if the light was directional down there, you'd expect we'd get a little bit of light there maybe, a little bit of light maybe there. Let me just turn that up a little. A little bit of light back there. Yeah, something like that. Okay, looking great. Let's add some shadows on the back of that, curves. One point in the middle, just drag down. Perfect. Command or Control I to invert. Zoom back in there. It's only a low res image, so you'll see when I zoom in it doesn't look that flash. Whoops, make sure we have the brush in white. And you can switch the black to white from here. And if you don't have black and white, you can press this little default button to change to black and white, but we want white there. You know, a little bit of shadow down there. A little bit of shadow down there. A little bit there. A little bit there. Isn't that looking great? Perfect. Okay. Let's add a little bit of contrast into this central region as well. Contrast is very, very interesting, very, very exciting. Curves layer again, sorry, jumped ahead there. Add another curves layer. One point at the bottom here, roughly. About 1/4 in, one at the top, 1/4 in. the bottom one just pulls downwards a fraction like so. The top one goes upwards a fraction like that. Once again, this is very, very interesting, adding contrast, so we'll just add it in and around the subject. Okay, beautiful, look at that, absolutely gorgeous. Okay, we're really getting there on this image. All right, now let's work with the color a little bit. Okay, so initially I'm going to add a hue saturation layer, and I'm going to just desaturate the entire image, just like that. Once again, you can see currently that's affecting the entire image because the window is white. Command or Control I to invert. B for brush, white brush, and I'll go with a 50-50 brush roughly. And what we're going to do is paint away a lot of the color from the outside, because again, color is interesting. Lack of color will mean that this area won't get as much attention as the central subject. Okay, just in here, brush that away. I want most of the blue out of this sky. Get that out too. Okay, and you can see what we've done is just left the color in the central region whilst removing it from the extreme outsides, which is going to help give us more attention into the middle. Now let's add some color in the middle. We'll use a solid color layer. And I want a kind of a burgundy orange, and you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. So solid color layer, choose a burgundy, rich orange red. You know, just click in the middle will do actually. For now, click OK. Change the blend mode from normal here to soft light. And I'll zoom in here because what I want to do is have a kind of a burnt orange. You can see there's already a bit of a hint of burnt orange, kind of maybe an algae growth or something from the seawater growing up this rock feature here. I want to enhance that a little bit. So just double click here on this color panel, and I just want to see which color I like. Okay, something like that looks really good. We could also change the hue. Do we want it more red or more orange? Yeah, I think somewhere around that reddish orange is good. Click on the layer mask here, Command or Control I to invert. B for brush, lower this right down, 20% or something, and we're just going to paint this up the edges a little bit. And that's going to, again, more color, more attention, right? So make this more obvious by having a little bit more color in that foreground region. One of the things I like to do when painting color in like this is the solid color can look a little unnatural, but if we double click to the right here, we can access Blend If, and there's Blend If tutorials in the course as well, so make sure you check out that because I believe it's the most powerful selection tool available. And all we're going to do here is just hold down Option or Alt and split these little sliders off. And what that does is it just removes a little bit of effect out of the shadow regions, and we'll do the same with the highlight regions. Hold down Option or Alt, split that off, and you get this kind of undulating effect where it's not in all the tones at the same intensity, if you like. So that works really well. Okay, Option or Alt, split those sliders off just to get that kind of natural undulating effect. Let's just add another hue saturation layer, and I'm just going to turn the saturation up a fraction. Okay, that's probably a little bit much, but we'll invert that layer, Command or Control I to invert, B for brush, and I've got about a 35% brush here. I really just want the water to be a little bit more vibrant right out in front here. A little bit more there, a little bit more there, a little bit more saturation there. Beautiful, okay. We're really getting there. Let me add a little bit more drama by just darkening down the edges a fraction more. I love going completely over the top. You may not, but that's okay. We're all different, aren't we? B for brush, just increase that size, and we're just going to make the sky, or the extreme externals of the sky, a little bit darker there. See how they've got these little white rocks here? We'll try and block them out a little bit too, because white rocks right on the edge, a little bit distracting, aren't they? Okay, isn't that much better than what we had before? Okay, and I think we're probably done. I might just add a little bit more light just into the middle. Command or Control invert, B for brush. I want that kind of hint of a light source coming from behind the clouds there. A little bit more light across the middle. Maybe a little bit more light there where the light's coming from. Absolutely brilliant. Let's take a look at what we've managed to achieve. Now keep in mind, we were using that theory of more light, more color, more contrast equals more attention, more obvious, more interesting subjects, okay, or more impactful images potentially. Let's take a look at our starting point. Hold down Option or Alt and just click on the visibility icon next to the background layer. We'll turn off all the other layers and you'll see that's our starting point. Now, do you agree with me that more light, more color, more contrast into the subject and less light, less contrast, less color in the surrounds? Or, as I said before, reveal the interesting, conceal the not so interesting? What do we think? Is the subject more interesting and does the image have more impact using this theory? I think there's no doubt to it at all that there's definitely something to this theory of reveal and conceal. Try that on your own images. You don't have to be as outrageous with it as I have here and push it right to the edge of the envelope. You can be a little bit more subtle, but just remember, more color saturation, more contrast, more light equals more interesting, and less color, less light, less contrast equals less interesting, or as I like to put it, reveal the interesting elements in your image and conceal the rest, and you'll get a very high impact image. I hope you really enjoyed this tutorial. Thanks again for watching along. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.